A warm welcome to all of you who have come from Cooney's Thai cuisine or are connected with Cooney in any way. It's nice to have you here, and thank you for lunch, and thank you for your service out in the garden and out on the road. I think you were pulling some weeds, so thank you. I just thought to mention a couple of things about how our mind is connected with happiness. When I was first learning about Tibetan Buddhism in the 90s, I had the chance to listen to some public talks that the Dalai Lama gave. And I was kind of surprised that when he would give these public talks, and he'd be talking to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people, he would often begin by saying something like, "We all want happiness and we all want to be free of suffering." And I puzzled over that because I thought, why would he say something so obvious? You know, I heard him say this again and again and again. And then it dawned on me, well, it's not so obvious. We probably know that's true on a very superficial level, but we don't know how pervasive that desire for happiness is. We are all hardwired to want happiness. And we also probably don't recognize how unskillful we are in getting happiness, right? We have to keep trying and trying and trying new things. We go out and get something new, and it makes us happy for a short while, and then it loses its appeal, and then we have to go out and find something else, right? So if we're really honest, what we would find, if we really take a look at our life, we'd find that we're looking for happiness 24 hours a day. From the morning we get up, and the moment we get up in the morning, till late at night, even in our dreams, we're probably still looking for happiness. So when I started thinking about this more deeply, I started looking at my own situation, my own life, and I found, sure enough, you know, each morning I'd hear the alarm go off and I'd want to hit the snooze alarm and go back to sleep. I thought there'd be happiness in 15 more minutes of sleep. Do any of you do that? I know some of the nuns do it. I hear it. And then I'd get up, and the first thing I'd do is I'd have a cup of coffee back in the good old days when coffee was allowed. And I noticed that I would go to great lengths to make the coffee just the way I liked it, you know, just the right strength, just the right amount of sugar, just the right amount of milk. Sound familiar? You know? It wasn't the same if it didn't taste just right. And then, you know, if I was heading off to work, then I'd get in the shower and I'd find myself adjusting the knob, trying to get it just the right temperature, as if happiness was going to come out of the shower, you know. And then I'd go to get dressed, and I'd look in my closet and try to find, well, what's going to make me happy today? You know, should I wear the comfortable clothes today? Or should I wear, you know, something that I think makes me look better? Or just something that's clean? You know, it's how do you make those decisions? And then I'd sit down and, you know, try to figure out what am I going to have for breakfast. And again, I noticed this mind that was constantly thinking, what's going to make me happy? Now, I didn't say those words out loud, but when I was really examining what goes on all day long, that was the predominant thought in my mind. So I invite you just to think about your morning up until today and all the seemingly insignificant decisions that you've made, actually probably hundreds of decisions that you've made seeking happiness. Just check for yourself. You know, this is important for us to find out for ourselves. So doesn't it seem that some of those things, like a nice cup of coffee or, you know, the warm shower just at the right temperature, doesn't it seem like some of those things have happiness? Like they are imbued with happiness. The happiness is in those things or in those people or in those situations. And so we spend our time going after seeking new sources of happiness. You know, we try to spend time with the right kind of people and the right things, the right music, the right everything, the right food. Cooney's restaurant, the right food. Thinking that happiness exists out there in those things. But have we ever stopped to check, does happiness actually exist out there in those things as the way it appears to? This is an assumption that we really need to check up. And so I learned these 3 questions to ask that really helped me because this is a very strong habit. It doesn't stop just because you've met Buddhism. It doesn't stop just because you've ordained. This is something that's very deeply ingrained. And so when I find my mind, my thoughts going towards, I have to have something, I have to have this, I have to be with this person, I have to, you know, this situation is going to bring me a lot of happiness, then I look into 3 questions that help me. And so I asked myself, well, if I have that thing, am I guaranteed to be happy? Is it going to guarantee it's going to make me happy? And often I find, no, that's not the case. Or actually, the first thing I asked is, if I had more of that thing, would I be happier? That's a sure giveaway. Okay, so if I had more of Cooney's Thai cuisine, would I be happier? I often think that's the case. But I'll bet everyone in this room has eaten a little bit too much of Cooney's beautiful Thai cuisine and have experienced a little suffering as a result. Not because of the food, but because we thought there was more happiness if we ate more, and then it showed that actually that's not the case, right? So that's a clue, but we're kind of slow to pick up these clues. So that's one thing we can ask. If I have more of that thing, am I going to be happier? And if that person or that thing, that situation was by itself the cause of happiness, then I would always be happy when I had that thing. But again, we can check up and see that there are times where someone might be in a bad mood when they eat at Cooney's Thai cuisine, and what happened? The happiness is supposed to come from the food. But again, another clue. And then another question is to ask, does everyone experience the same kind of happiness that I do when I have that thing, or I'm with that person, or I'm in that situation? And Cooney, you won't believe this, but there are people who don't like Thai food. There are a few people, not many, but there are a few. So if happiness really existed in the external things as it appears, then all of those three things would be different, wouldn't they? So these are clues that we can use to check up to see, does happiness exist outside of ourselves, external to ourselves? And if it does, then these three things should happen consistently, but they don't. So from a Buddhist point of view, we're interested in looking at other avenues for happiness. And the primary teachings of the Buddha is about working with our mind to develop causes of happiness by developing positive states of mind. Because maybe you've noticed when your mind is in positive state, when you're feeling very friendly towards somebody, you have a lot of kindness, a lot of generosity. I mean, look at Cooney. You display a lot of generosity. Look how happy Cooney is. She's constantly giving to people. And look how happy she is. So when we have positive states of mind, like generosity or kindness or concentration, faith, whatever the integrity, honesty, whatever those positive states are, then our actions tend to be more positive, and that brings a lot of happiness into our lives. And the opposite is true too. When our mind is disturbed, maybe we're irritated, we have anger, we have resentment, jealousy, pride, things like that. When those things are in our mind, check up to see what kind of actions do we create then? What kind of things do we say? What kind of things do we do? And chances are good, things don't turn out so well when our mind is motivated by these negative states of mind, and then the actions also are in that line. So probably we've all had an experience where the external situation was really great, but our mind wasn't happy. Can you relate to that? You had an experience like that? I remember one vacation in Hawaii. I ruined it for myself. Hawaii was perfect. My mind wasn't so good. And then we've probably all had a similar or an opposite situation where the external situation was challenging, but our mind was in a good place. And then we could deal with it. We could handle it. So that shows us that of the two things, external situations or internal situations, the most important one is what's happening in our mind at the mental level. And so this is something that we have some control over. A lot of Buddhist practice is about meditating to increase positive states of mind, virtuous states of mind, virtuous actions that will bring about a greater kind of happiness. And reducing the negative states of mind that tend to bring a lot of misery to us. This seems so self-evident, but I tell you, it's a hard practice to do. It takes many years, many lifetimes, really, to understand this, but it's so worthwhile. So those are just a few thoughts to maybe put in your pocket, take home, think about it, see it if it matches your situation. And if it does, then perhaps you're interested in coming up here and learning a little bit about Buddhism. All right.